Welcome back, everybody, to the Fantasy Hockey Hacks podcast, the official podcast of Left Wing Lock, your number one source for fantasy hockey intelligence and a proud partner of the Hockey Podcast Network. I'm Devin Davidson, your host. With me, as always, Bruce Gunther, John Enns, Tyler Homan, and joining us tonight for a special episode, Mike McLaughlin. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
What's happening?
What's up?
It was a fun week, eh? Lots going on this week.
Yep.
Crickets. Come on, guys. There was stuff happening.
Yeah, it kind of got crazy in these last 48 hours.
Yeah, lots happening.
Yes, yes, it is.
I guess let's set the table first. We've got fantasy hockey playoffs starting in the FHHL this week. How did things shake out? I think I may or may not have finished first in this league and in Timu and in our Yahoo League, Bruce. I think I finished first in 3 leagues this year.
Try a little harder, buddy.
Who gives a shit?
Wah. He started.
Sorry. Yeah, I know. It's kind of like Tom Brady. When it happens every year, it just becomes old news, right?
Oh, God.
Did you
We'll
just
see how
compare
Yahoo-
yourself to Tom Brady?
Basically, the Tom Brady of fantasy hockey. Yeah,
He tried really hard, yes.
Except Tom Brady's what, 8 inches taller or 6 inches taller? Or...
Probably more than that. Even. The guy's 6'4". He's a monster. Okay, listen. If I can't talk shit on here, where can I talk shit, right? So
You can't do it here either.
I can't. In all seriousness, our fantasy hockey playoffs do start tomorrow, so looking forward to that. Bruce, how did you do in Yahoo this week?
I'm up 9-3 at the moment, even though I have 3 guys injured and 1 guy on COVID.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, we've got kind of a weird situation there in that league. Eh? Our commissioner locked all the players, even for the teams that are in the playoffs. Yeah. And Bruce, you had 3 or 4 guys who were.
I had 3 guys injured and 1 on COVID, and I lost Keller's out for the year. Kyle Connor's on COVID list. Carter Hart was hurt. I think he's back now though. Werenski is still out. So
good for you for being 9-3 or 9 categories this week.
Yeah, I checked this before we come on here. That's where we were at.
Cool.
So.
Good stuff. And John, it looks like you purposefully lost to me this week. Is that what was going on there? Did you do the math on the standings?
He wanted to play me in the first round, so he just tanked.
Is that what's happening?
He didn't want to play you.
I didn't.
He was trying really hard not to play you.
Yeah. The problem is I had nobody playing this week, it seemed.
Okay.
Well, it's okay. I think I had my best week ever this week, so my team will totally flame out next week.
You peaked early, Bruce. You peaked early.
Yeah, way too early.
Yeah, Devin ruined my 8-game winning streak, so.
Yeah, sorry. I think I extended mine to 11 instead. Anyway, and Tyler, you're happy? Your team's doing okay right now?
Yeah, I think.
Or you just haven't checked in like 6 weeks?
I just, I'm losing in one, I'm winning in the other, but it's not playoffs, I don't think, in Timu. Is it?
No, we have one more week in Timu.
I should probably
You're the
know
commissioner. You should know that.
We're good.
Oh, boy. Okay. And Mike, what's going on with you? You got fantasy hockey playoffs starting this week, or are you already into it, or what's going on?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. In 2 of my leagues, they're roto leagues, so no playoffs, just full season. Whoever gets the most points wins. So I still have a good 4 weeks left in those 2 leagues. The head-to-head points league that I'm in, there was a mistake when the commissioner set it up this year, and we've been in it for, I don't know, maybe 5 years or something, but he just overlooked something or made a mistake and forgot to set the weeks for the playoffs.
Whoops.
So we don't have any playoffs.
So whoever's number 1 at the end of the season
I guess
wins.
so. I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm still playing in there, and I guess that's another 4 weeks there too. So I might not have any playoffs this year. Just by
interesting,
weird circumstances.
Okay. Well, may the best man win in every league, and with that, let's maybe get rolling. I know we got some good stuff to cover here in our first segment, John's list. For those of you that aren't aware or new to the show, John's list is basically John's shit list of players, past and present. It's a fun way for us to kick off the show every week. We have a good time with it. It's never necessarily one specific player. Sometimes it's different things. But anyway, John, take it away, man.
This week's player on the list, fairly simple one for me here. J, middle name D-Bag Beagle.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, I like some physicality in the game. I'm all for it, but that was just straight up goon squad. I didn't like that.
I'm with you. That was, to quote John Enns, that was trash.
That was trash. Absolutely.
Like he look, Terry comes in defending Ziegras, who gets cross-checked in the back after.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm fine with that play because
he did one little dig.
He's digging for the puck, and then, the guy comes in, cross-checks him. Well, that under most circumstances, I don't care about that play. But then he goes after Terry, and Terry's not even defending himself. He's not even engaged in the fight anymore. And honestly, the other guy that should be on this list is the linesman who was standing there, because there's two of them. And earlier in the game, there was a fight that had happened, and the linesman jumped in right away. Neither guy jumped in when Terry was getting his face caved in.
Yeah.
And then the other guy should be on this list here too, John, are the play-by-play guys on that clip that I retweeted out. Like, what a stupid thing to say.
Yeah, like
if you're gonna skill up, you should be prepared to have your face punched in. Pardon?
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
That's 90s hockey in a 2010 era. It just doesn't work.
Did you see Terry's face? Did you see the photo of it?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Like, he can't even see out of his one eye. At least it
pretty
looks
rough.
that way
He's not
anyway.
playing tonight. Oh, and nobody tell me the score in the game, because I'm gonna watch it later. So.
Oh, I almost said something too.
Yeah, I knew you were going to. So yeah, no, don't do that.
One thing I'll say about that is, if Getzlaf would have been in the lineup, that wouldn't have happened.
Well, or if it did, there would have been some
Getzlaf.
consequences after.
If it did, Getzlaf would have buried him, because he won't put up for that. So if they do play again this season and Getzlaf's in the lineup, Beagle's going to get buried in a big
Getzlaf's
way.
a knob.
Well, maybe, but he doesn't put up. Him or Perry. If Perry was still playing with the Ducks, they would have just pounded him.
You're just picking the worst hockey players I could think of.
Good. I'll add Ryan Kessler.
I was going to say, he's going to do
then.
that, and then...
Vegas Golden Knight, Ryan Kessler.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that guy.
right?
That guy.
Yeah.
Tyler, I want your input on this, because you're kind of quiet right now, but I know you've got an opinion on what happened yesterday.
I was trying to figure out how to stream the Oilers game.
I gave up on that, and I'm actually watching it to my left.
Yeah, I was having a hard time. I think it was obviously over the top, since he wasn't defending himself. I think when you come in there and you try and poke at the puck when it's 5-0, you're gonna get a reaction. That was over the top. I think Jay Beagle, being a veteran player that is playing for Arizona, who didn't get moved at the deadline to a contending team, you're probably a little bit grumpy. Obviously, none of that's an excuse, but I think all of that plays into it. It was over the top. The play-by-play guys was probably the worst part of all of it. The guy that said it played that way a long time ago. It's not quite played like that anymore, especially if the guy's not going to defend himself. Like, he jumped him before he had a chance to even do anything. And I think the first two that he caught him with kind of closed up that eye, so it's not like he could even see what's going on. So the other thing too was the linesman, because they jumped in there when two guys were willing to fight each other and stopped it, which I hate. Just get out of the way and let them go. And they just kind of stood there and didn't do anything about it. So I'm going to try and stream the game.
Okay, so it sounds like you kind of saw it the way I saw it, and I think the way most people saw it. Mike, I'm assuming you had a similar take on it?
I have a slightly different take.
Okay, good. Okay, let's hear it. I like this.
So,
Team Uslani does not agree with you, by the way.
yeah, I mean, the first thing I did was I watched that clip a couple times that was posted all over Twitter or whatever, and it took me a couple watches and listens to just say, hey, I'm going to mute this stupid video. Because of Tyson Nash, right? He just kept talking about how the fight was, due to how Ziegras had played earlier in the game, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this is stupid. I don't think that's what the fight is about at all. So I muted that guy and I watched the clip a couple times. And so, I guess Ziegras catches the cross check after he jabs a couple times in a 5-0 game. I don't have any problem with that. That happens every single game, right? And then what I saw, though, was I saw Troy Terry initiate that fight the couple times I watched it. He came in and he threw what looked like a right fist into Beagle's face. I don't know, he hit him with the fist or he hit him with his forearm, but he hit Beagle first. And when I saw that, I was like, well, I mean, Terry's face doesn't look so good, and I know the Ducks are really unhappy about this, but he did initiate the fight with Beagle, and he just ended up getting the worst of it. So I don't have as much sympathy for him as other people do, I think, because I don't think he should have punched Beagle in the face. I mean, I know why he did, and I probably would have wanted to too if I saw my teammate get cross-checked, but if you punch somebody in the face, I guess you have to get ready to get punched back in the face. And that's what happened.
Yeah. Hey, it's a different perspective. I mean, I understand what you're saying, right? I think, he did initiate the fight. I'll agree with you. Troy Terry came in there and he initiated contact with Beagle. I guess what upsets me is that, sort of your point, Tyler, is usually a veteran player like Beagle knows when a guy is not engaged in a fight. He usually lets up, right? It's kind of just, it's part of the code of the game, right? Like, and now you've opened the guy up and you're still going at him, and the linesman too. I think that was a poor play on their part. But either way, not a good look, I don't think. But it happens, right? It's hockey. So, but for the purposes of this podcast, Jay Beagle is a member of the list and will be forever. So, not getting off there.
That's right.
All right, let's move on to Fantasy Lock of the Week, March 28th to April the 3rd, presented by Left Wing Lock. I've got Nikita Kucherov, 8 points, 1 goal, 5 power play points, just about 19.5 minutes of time on ice in 3 games played. He's playing at a 107-point pace this season. He's averaging the most time of his career at 20.03 per game, and he's shooting at a career best 3.5 shots on goal per game. Some good things there from Nikita Kucherov. Honorable mentions this week go to Jonathan Heberto, who had 7 points, 3 goals, 1 game-winning goal, 13 shots on goal. 18.5 minutes time on ice. Huberto's 97 points are the most by a Panthers player in franchise history, and he's on pace for 115 points, so he's having a pretty fantastic season.
He just will not slow down, right? I mean,
we talked about him, weeks back on Fact or Fiction, right? He was one of, and so I will have to go back and look at what his final numbers are at the end of the season, Mike. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he hasn't slowed down.
He's going to be a really interesting player to see where he gets drafted next summer. Or this summer, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to be too high. I mean, because is he going to come out and put 115 points up next season? I guess he could, but I don't know if he will. We'll see. Other honorable mention here, Robert Thomas, 7 points, 3 goals. He's a +5. 50% power play share, just under 19.5 minutes per game, 4 games played. He's having a breakout year as well. Career high in goals with 15, career high in assists with 42 points, 47 shots on goal. He's 1.5, which isn't great volume, but it's the best we've seen from him so far. 10 power play points at a career high and just about 19 minutes time on ice at a career high. So lots of good things from him. He's playing at an 81-point pace, 21-goal pace over 82 games. He's a guy, Mike, that I think will... His draft stock has risen throughout the course of this season. We'll see him go higher next year or this summer. In drafts as well.
I think so too. And really, I think the only thing missing from his game from a fantasy perspective is just that shot production.
Yeah.
If we can see that come up a little bit, I think he'll be a nice player in most leagues.
He's still producing despite that poor shot volume, right?
That's right.
In fact, I picked him up in one league, and Bruce beat me to him in the other one because I think I was out of pickups. But I added him to our waiver wire list too. We'll talk about Robert Thomas, I guess, a little bit later in the show here.
And he's a little farther down in the news and notes too. I put a thing in there.
You did, yeah.
You actually ran out of pickups? That happens?
Well, there's seven per week, right? 7 per week.
Am I the only guy who only picks up like 1 or 2 max per week?
You might be, yeah.
Man, you guys need to draft better.
Oh, Jesus.
But I know a guy.
You know a guy, yeah. You know a guy. He could hook you up with some information.
Absolutely.
We'll have to get to some of that a little later, maybe in the next week or two. All right, next segment here, guys. Headlines with the Hacks. News and injury updates for March 28th to April 3rd. Our partner, Left Wing Lock, has developed a playoff probabilities tool. Make sure you check out the link in our show notes at fantasyhockeyhacks.com. Mike, love the tool. You know, we've talked about it a little bit on the past in the show here. Anything fans or listeners should be aware of with that tool?
Yeah, I've been having fun kind of watching it evolve. You know, we just got it started earlier in February, and it's been nice to kind of watch the playoff races from that perspective instead of just looking at the normal standings points, which I think don't do as great of a job at telling you how close a race might be. One thing to keep in mind about that tool is we do round off the playoff percentages to 2 decimal points. So you might see a team that has playoff odds that have already reached 100% on our model. And that just means that the odds are really 99.995 or greater. And our model just rounded it up to 100. So just a little minor note in case people are wondering why they're seeing 100 and that team hasn't actually qualified for the playoffs yet.
Okay, gotcha. Checking out that tool, I think the most interesting division, in my opinion anyway, has been the Pacific, just based on how tight the standings are there.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
You know, we've talked about the East. It's basically all decided there. So it's the Central and the Pacific has been very interesting.
Yeah, it's been great to watch. And I guess Vegas won earlier today. And Dallas, I haven't looked, but they were down 1-0 in the first period earlier tonight.
Well, and I saw that Vegas won pretty much in the worst way possible by giving up a point to Vancouver in overtime too. So because Vancouver's not totally out of it yet, but you'd like to just see somebody win in regulation in that situation.
Yeah.
And not Vegas, preferably. All right, let's get into the news and injury updates here. So starting it off here, the NHL 3 Stars of the Week for March 21st to the 27th were Cam Talbot with a 3-0 record, 1.33 GAA, a 959 save percentage, and 1 shutout. Bruce, you got to be happy with what Cam Talbot's doing right now?
Pretty happy with both of them, to be honest. Can't really complain with either Talbot or Fleury at the moment.
No kidding. Johnny Hockey, 2 goals, 8 assists, 10 points in 3 games. And Leon Draisaitl, John, your favorite player, 6 goals, 2 assists, 8 points in 4 games. Don't look at me like that.
It's deserved.
All right. Todd McClellan coached his 1,000th game on Monday night. I'm a fan of Todd. It didn't work out in Edmonton. I guess we got the next best thing in Jay Woodcroft. But
is McClellan a Coach of the Year candidate, considering what he's done with the Kings compared to for what he's been working with?
I think he might be. Someone mentioned on Twitter, like, when you look at that Western road trip, like he goes Edmonton, Calgary, and was it Vancouver, or wherever else it was, and he got 5 of a possible 6 points, and right now it's a pretty shorthanded roster.
Yeah.
And a team that had very low expectations coming into the season anyway, so I don't know what you're talking about. Don't even tell me. Don't even say anything. But yeah, no, good for Todd. He's had a lot of success there. It's been good to see. Keep it rolling. Or not, because we don't want the Kings to do that well. So Sonny Milano returned to the Ducks lineup on Tuesday. Some good news for them. Petr Mrazek left the game earlier this week with a lower body injury. He's out for the rest of the regular season. But they've got Campbell back now, so not really an issue, I guess. Plus, that Shalgren kid's been pretty good. Miro Heiskanen returned to Dallas to the lineup for the Stars on Tuesday. Nathan McKinnon flew back to Denver to have, they said upper body injury, but it was a hand injury from a fight, right?
Yeah.
And he's fine. He returned in a recent game.
Yes.
So everyone can just breathe a collective sigh of relief there. Zach Werenski did not travel with the Blue Jackets on their road trip. He missed a few games. He's been out all week here, but another defenseman we'll talk about later has been pretty good for Columbus. Connor and Nate Schmidt are on the COVID-19 list and will miss the next 3 games. I really thought we were done with that. That was disappointing on a number of levels.
And what sparked that is they traveled across the border.
Yeah, that's right. And someone had mentioned if the game had been 48 hours later, like because as of Friday that restriction is no longer in place as you cross the border.
That's right.
Yeah.
But because it happened when it did, Connor and Schmidt are both sitting. So that affected my roster this week, Bruce, and yours as well.
Mine, yep.
But should be back next week, hopefully. So fingers crossed. Some unfortunate news here. Clayton Keller was stretchered out. Bruce, this affects you as well. Man, I swear to God, if you didn't have bad luck, you'd have none at all.
It's pretty much how it goes.
Oh,
my teams do great, and then we hit the fantasy playoffs, and it's just
good. It's honestly crazy. It's honestly crazy every year. But Clayton Keller stretchered off the ice, took a nasty spill. I don't know. It kind of looked awkward. It didn't look that bad. I didn't think, but
yeah,
bad
it's
enough
just
to break his leg, I guess.
and it got tied up with someone, or
no, he just kind of
it was weird.
tripped over the red line. I don't know.
Oof.
It looked like it hurt.
Yeah, it didn't look comfortable. It just looked really awkward. But
Yeah.
so he's out for the rest of the regular season. Taylor Hall was fined $5,000 for. I'm going to scratch this, Bruce. I'm not calling that a sucker punch, but he kind of took a swipe. He took a swipe at Ilya Lyubushkin of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Was it enough? Honestly, I think $5,000 was fine. I think all the Leafs fans out there screaming that Matthews got 2 games, so Hall should be suspended for life. Just take a breath. It really wasn't that bad. I like Lyubushkin, who I don't like. He's a player. He's kind of a plug who has a reputation for taking guys out from behind. He hit McDavid earlier this season from behind into the goalpost. He pile drive Taylor Hall into the boards, and Hall just kind of gets up to get his attention, really. I think he went to go grab his shoulder, and he kind of swiped his face.
He slapped.
So whatever, $5,000 fine.
He slapped him with his fingertips.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all it was.
I just watched that for the first time. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a fingertip
Like,
slap.
yeah,
Will Smith smacked what's his name harder than that.
I agree. 100%.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Will Smith even had
So we're saying there was embellishment on that play.
From
then.
Lyubushkin? Oh, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, and this was talked about in another podcast earlier this week, and actually I think it was Louis DeBrusque who was talking about it. And he said we're at the point now in the NHL where players now need to embellish on every play to get a call.
Yeah.
And that's the sad state of affairs. Like, it's going to turn into soccer soon where guys have to embellish to get calls.
That
See, and
would be
that's-
very bad.
Yeah.
And that's why they
Yeah.
do it in soccer, because they get the calls for it then.
Yep.
Otherwise,
And
they
you're
never
seeing
would.
it-
So
You're seeing it in hockey, right? If Lyubushkin doesn't fall down like a house of cards, do you think they're going to talk about Taylor Hall tickling his nose at all?
He had an interview after that, and he said that he doesn't dive. When he feels pain, I can't remember how he worded it. It was something, when there's pain, he feels pain, or something like that. Okay.
well, they had to
Okay.
push him off the ice, it looks like here. Like,
Well, and then people were
Yeah.
comparing it to Bertuzzi. Like,
what?
Oh, come on.
What?
Yeah.
What?
it's only because it was Toronto. And that's the only reason. And thank God
John,
Matthews.
there was some...
Thank God
much.
Matthews got his 50th after that, because they stopped talking about it. Thank God. Started talking about
Yeah.
that, and that was probably even more irritating than the finger slap.
Just give him the empty net and be done with it.
It
Does the
absolutely
50th
was-
really count, though? Because it was an empty net goal. Do you have to put like a little star next to that? Or
You should,
I think you do, Mike.
but only if it's Toronto and Matthews.
Yeah.
Because, well, let's talk about that here quick, too. Like, everybody just... Twitter was hilarious. When he scored, that's all I saw. And, of course, I sent out that tweet, like, did Matthews score his 50th? I hadn't seen anything. Yeah, flooded. And now that, like, they put the panels together, is Auston Matthews the greatest goal scorer of all time and the greatest goal scorer? Like, guys, he scored 50, finally, for the first time in his career. And he had 2 empty netters to get to 50. So, like, let's pump the brakes a little bit.
There's another guy called Ovechkin that's pretty good at scoring goals too.
Yeah, but all he scores is empty netters too now. So
Oh, gee.
every time the net's empty, the guy's out there for a 6-minute shift.
Well, sure. They're trying to break Gretzky's record.
Gotta pad the stats, right?
Drives me nuts.
I should, correct myself a little bit. I like Auston Matthews is a great player. Like, I'm not trying to take any credit away from Auston Matthews, but typical Toronto media, right? They just have to.
Yeah, everything is
Yeah.
supersized.
Yeah. So
Super size,
Whatever.
super stupid. Either one.
I have no time for that.
That's another way of putting it.
Tyler, did you
Okay.
just see that guy wipe out and face first into the boards?
Yeah, it was good.
All right. Speaking of the Oilers, Connor McDavid hit 100 points for the 5th time in 6 seasons. I think there was only. I saw a tweet from the NHL. There's only 2 or 3 players that have scored more 100-point seasons before age 26 than Connor McDavid. So he's in some pretty elite company there.
Could you imagine if he did it in Toronto?
Oh my goodness.
I'd have to delete social media. Never go back.
No more food updates.
Nope.
As much as
Zero.
I love the Leaf hate, I think we should probably move on before we
Okay,
get through this
good.
podcast.
I'm just gonna mute myself.
No. I mean, we have plenty of listeners who are Leafs fans, and I'm sorry if we're shitting all over them, but this is pretty common for us.
I'm not
You guys
sorry.
are the worst.
Westerners, so.
I'm not sorry.
Yeah.
You know why they're making all the big thing about his Matthews' 50th
Because he's
goal?
never done it before.
They have to do something because they keep flaming out in the first round of the playoffs. They got to cheer about something.
Oh, sure.
Did they even score last year? And what did they get? 4 games of the playoffs? Or that was Edmonton. But did Matthews even score? Maybe he got 1.
You know what?
I think he got 1.
And here's to be totally objective. Someone had put some numbers together comparing some elite level players in the regular season and the playoffs. Both Connor McDavid and Auston Matthews, their production dips in the postseason fairly substantially, and Mitch Marner too, I believe. So, Mike, if you get a chance at some point, you want to stat correct me. But I think that's what it is. And there's a couple guys. Leon Draisaitl, John, for your information, is one guy who actually maintains his production through the playoffs.
Speaking of which,
Spoiler alert, he just scored.
Yeah. Okay, zip your lips. Okay, let's move on. Jordan Kyrou missed Wednesday's game due to illness, and he missed Friday and Saturday's game as well. So not good for their leading point getter. Bowen Byram is off to the AHL for a conditioning stint. Any update there, Bruce, or anybody for that matter?
I haven't seen anything since.
Okay. Lawson Krause is out for the season with a broken hand. Auston Matthews. Jonathan Heberto. He has the record for most assists by a left wing in NHL history with 71. Brad Marchand scored his 30th goal this season on Thursday night. Cole Caulfield is the NHL Rookie of the Month for March. 15 points, 7 goals in 15 games. The NHL's 3 stars of the month are Roman Josi with 28 points, 4 goals, 14 games. Johnny Gaudreau with 26 points, 11 goals. And Sergei Bobrovsky, a 7-0-0 record with a 2.13 goals against average and a .924 save percentage. And then I think he pretty much fell off the map in April.
And then he promptly got pulled in his next start.
So, anyway, that's Bob for you.
I think he had in his last 2 starts, I think it was something like a 780 save percentage or something like that. It was below 850. I can't remember what it was. But good thing I have him. Just in time.
Those are Mike Smith numbers.
Just in time for fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, and one of those games was against New Jersey.
Yeah.
Who's been surprisingly good, actually, in terms of goal scoring anyway.
This time of the season,
All right.
teams will do that.
Oh, garbage time, right?
Yeah.
Garbage time.
Edmonton's done it forever.
Trevor Ziegras, another highlight reel lacrosse Michigan goal. He makes it look so easy, eh?
I think it just has to be renamed the Ziegras at this point. He almost did it
I would
tonight
agree with
again,
that.
and it almost looked like he's I don't want to. Like he does it for fun, so
I don't want my teammates to get punched in the face.
yeah, I want to.
Yeah, really, eh? I'm sure that went through his mind. I can't skill up here. I can't skill up.
Well, that guy on the TV said not to.
Yeah, he said, I'll get punched in the face if I do.
Yeah.
What a stupid thing to say. Anyway, Tage Thompson recorded his 30th goal of the season Friday night. Good stuff from him this season.
Didn't see that coming.
No.
No, the game what he did.
And so that trade is looking a lot better now. I think Buffalo feels pretty good about themselves. Jack Campbell returned to the Leafs lineup on Saturday. Nazem Kadri is expected to miss some time after taking a big hit against the Sharks on Friday night. All of a sudden, they're hurting at their forward depth.
Yeah.
Marc-Andre Fleury is now 3-0 with a .958 save percentage since joining the Wild. I really thought he'd play more.
I was kind of hoping he'd play more.
Well, I think everyone was kind of hoping that Talbot would lay an egg since Fleury got there, and exact opposite has
He
happened.
hasn't done it, not once.
No, it's a terrific tandem looking going forward so far.
Yeah, all of a sudden they go from sort of a middling goaltending team to all of a sudden they've got elite goaltending.
Yeah, if they go into the playoffs with great goaltending, they are going to be tough to beat.
And right before that, Mike, you were bang on. Like they fell off a map for a few weeks there.
For a couple weeks there, yeah.
Bruce was sweating bullets for weeks.
I traded some of them away.
All right, let's talk about the other big story that went on this week, and that was Keith Yandle being a healthy scratch on Saturday for the Flyers, ending his Ironman streak at 989 games. Mike, I want your take on this, obviously, being that you're a Flyers fan. I really didn't like this. I understand that Keith Yandle, his plays dropped off, but you're 11 games from 1,000. The season's lost already. Is there any harm in letting the guy finish out his streak?
Yeah, it's a really weird decision. When they announced it, because Mike Yao or whatever held a little, mini media availability to kind of say, hey, Yandle's not playing. They kind of packaged it as if they were allowing room for the younger players to come into the lineup. And if that had actually been true, I would have been 100% behind it, because Yandle has been very bad this season.
They put an AHLer
and he was actually, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off, but they put an AHLer in.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
They had a chance to play Yandle. He could have played, and instead they brought up I don't know how to say this guy's last name. It's kind of comical, actually. Ronnie Attard. Is it Attard? I don't know. All I know is that if that guy plays for the Flyers, like in the playoffs one day, and makes a terrible gaffe, the fans are going to destroy him. Like, his name is R. Attard. Like, that's ridiculous. But he's the guy you want to see play right now, right? He's a young player. You have to see what you have in him, and that makes total sense. That guy should be in the lineup right now with 11 games left. But the guy playing next to him should be Keith Yandle, going for the record. Instead, they have Nick Seeler in the lineup. And if Nick Seeler is in your top 7 defensemen, your team sucks. And
Not
so
wrong.
to me, that was the most offensive part about it, about the decision, was they said it was to get young guys in the roster, and they put Nick Seeler in instead. And it makes zero sense. Like, I don't understand it at all. But like I said, I would be 100% behind it if they really were filling up the 6 defensemen with younger guys. But they did not do that. And the fact that they packaged it as that, made it even worse, I think. They basically lied.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all. Even though I don't really care so much about the record. And like Yandle, he wasn't good all season. And he's only been with the Flyers a short time, so I don't have any kind of emotional attachment here. I still feel it was the wrong decision.
All right. Couldn't have said it better
There
myself.
is one minor detail I'll add real quick to this. I do think that this benching actually helps Yandle long term. And I'll offer this argument for it. In the offseason, if a team does want to pursue him as like a depth defenseman, veteran guy just to have on the roster for, $800,000. They don't have to worry about any kind of, PR nightmare of benching him or waiving him because the record's already busted.
Yeah, true story.
Whereas if he had gone through and made 1,000 games and didn't sit the rest of the season, what team is going to take the chance of having to pay him the money and then in the first week realize he's not good and then, screw him over?
But we can't bench him. We can't bench him because we don't want to be that team that breaks the record.
Right. So maybe it helps him next year. I don't know. Maybe he gets a contract out of this.
That's a fair point, actually. The only instance I can think of that, in terms of Ironman streaks, that was upsetting was Andrew Cagliano's a couple of years ago when he got suspended for 2 games or something, but it was a complete nonsense suspension. Like, he shouldn't have been suspended.
Yeah.
So I felt bad for him. Like, that was a terrible way for that streak to end. But anyway,
I think
let's move on to even happier news. Sorry, go ahead, Tyler.
Well, I think the funniest part is that Phil Kessel is like the next active, and it's hilarious that guy who's built like a Twinkie somehow has played 968 consecutive games.
The guy's a monster.
Mind-boggling.
That
like
physical specimen.
He should be like a science experiment to figure out how that's even happened. Like how somebody that's shaped like that can be a professional athlete for as long as he has. That's impressive. I'm impressed. It gives us all hope. If we were a little bit younger than we are right now, we could do it too.
Sure, why not?
I'm okay with Kessel getting that. The guy's played well enough to actually play. The whole Yandel thing. Honestly, I was happy he got benched or scratched, I should say. If you don't deserve to play, you don't play. I don't care what kind of streak you're looking for.
I think for Kessel too, if he gets the record,
which he should,
his legacy will be that, and it is the best thing in the world that somebody like him is going to be remembered for that, and hot dogs, but that too,
and hot dogs.
That's awesome.
Honestly, that's when you look back now, Tyler, in 40 years from now, and the NHL's Iron Man is Phil Kessel.
Yeah.
And they look at a picture, like...
If I'm on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in 40 years, I'm going to know that answer. And it's going to be off the top of my head.
He had some extra padding to avoid injury.
He's got a lot of it.
Yeah, that's a fair point, Bruce. Okay, Sean Monahan, speaking of being benched, he's... he got benched for... Was it the first time in Calgary, or...
Yeah, it was
this season.
I think he's been benched
anyway,
before.
but he got benched earlier, and now he's undergoing season-ending hip surgery. So, the struggles continue for Sean Monahan. Robert Thomas, as you mentioned earlier, Bruce, 14 points in his past 9 games, still under 35% rostered. The Blues play 4 times next week, including Arizona and Seattle. But we've talked about in the past. I don't understand why he's not rostered by more teams. Probably, like you said earlier, Mike, the shot volume is not good. But other than that, I mean, the deployment is good. The point production has been there. He plays on a good offensive team. They've one of the best power plays in the league right now. If you haven't picked this guy up, you probably should, even just for next week. He's got 4 games on the schedule.
Yeah, you guys all beat me to him. I was going to do it on Thursday.
Well, I dropped...
Then I was going to do it on Friday. I'm like, he's still sitting there. Maybe I'll do it on Saturday. Look, today, gone.
I dropped Dadonov because they play twice next week, right? So I was like, well... And I had Eichel and Theodore on my roster already, so... Yeah. Kirill Kaprizov set a wild record for most points in a single season with 85, 39 goals, 46 assists. Bruce, you must just be like a proud papa.
I'm happy.
Jeremy Swayman recorded his 20th win of the season on Saturday. Rupe Hintz. Oh, Grant, you're welcome. Rupe Hintz scored his 30th goal of the season against the Sharks Saturday night. Cal Peterson reached his 20th win of the season win over the Jets. With the win on Sunday, the Florida Panthers are the first team to secure their spot in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Mackenzie Weegar set a career high in points with 38. Joel Eriksson Ek, now 20 goals in the season, a career high for him. Troy Terry, like we said, is going to miss. He missed today's game. Robin Leonard returned to the crease on Sunday, which pretty much eliminates Logan Thompson from our waiver wire list, I guess. We'll still talk about him, but Mikko Koskinen is missing today's game due to illness. I was quite distraught, actually, when I saw Mike Smith starting again, but then I realized shortly after it was due to illness. So Connor McDavid reached the 40-goal plateau for the third time in his career. Leon Draisaitl hit 50. I still haven't watched the game, and now you guys have pretty much ruined it for me, so thanks for that.
It wasn't an empty net, and it was
nice.
It was vintage Leon from the goal line.
Vintage Leon.
From the corner. He was basically in the stands.
Settle
in
down.
his office? He was in his
He was
office?
in his office on the in the first
He was
row.
in his office.
I've seen better.
Nice.
Oh God.
John, this is just this is like a vengeance thing for you. I don't know. You've got it out for Leon.
Absolutely.
At a certain point, we just can't listen to you anymore when it comes to Leon Draisaitl.
John liked the Ziegras goal better.
Oh.
I like that he used Milano as like a blocker for him when he went
Well,
around
he
the
needed
net.
an extra challenge, right?
Well, somebody's got to fight John.
Milano's trying to dive out of the way as he's coming around with
Somebody's
the
got
puck.
to fight John now.
Bring it.
All right, that does it.
Kevin Lowe in a barn somewhere in Western Canada.
That does it for headlines with the Hacks guys for this week. It's probably a good time to tell our listeners about NHLShop.ca, the Fantasy Hockey Hacks podcast, a proud partner of NHLShop.ca, the best source for all your officially licensed NHL apparel and merchandise. Follow the links in our show notes or on our website. Save up to 50% on select apparel now and get free shipping on orders over $99. Use promo code NHLFS99 at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. See store for details. Full disclosure, Fantasy Hockey Hacks may receive a small commission for your purchase, which helps us to continue providing original content and and fueling Tyler's gambling habits, which
And gambling.
we have yet to discuss. So what's going on, Tyler? What's the latest?
I need another game here tonight to win. I need Dallas to do something. But I won yesterday, so that was good. Made up for losing Monday through Friday, so that's good. Everything's good.
It just takes one, right?
Yep.
Just takes one.
Yep, or a couple, whichever.
One parlay.
Yeah, couple of parlays. Get me right back in it.
Of course. Okay. That brings us to our next segment, which we're all excited about, is Fact or Fiction, featuring Mike McLaughlin from Left Wing Lock. So, Mike, thanks for putting this together for us. I'm just going to hand it right over to you. And I guess for our listeners, basically, Fact or Fiction, Mike takes 3 different scenarios, whether it's forwards, defenseman, or a team scenario, and determines based on the facts whether they are fact or fiction. So, Mike, have at her.
All right, and I'll do just a quick preface for this one. In the previous fact or fiction segments we've had this season, there's been a lot of time left in the season for the things I hope will come true to come true. The stuff I'm going to talk about today, we're coming up on very short time samples now, just a few weeks left in the season. And so I would say the certainty I have in the things I'm about to say is somewhat less than the other fact or fiction segments throughout the season so far.
Okay.
So with that said, I'll start off with John's favorite team, the Arizona Coyotes, Jay Beagle. Since our last segment on this, that was back right before Valentine's Day. Since that time, the Coyotes have earned 19 points in 21 games. And they won again today, so I guess that puts them up to 21 points in 22 games. Almost 1 point per game as far as standing points go. Now, for a normal team, that's pretty terrible. But for the Arizona Coyotes, that's pretty great. Because prior to this run since February, they only had 28 points in 47 games. And they've been in last place. And they are in last place tonight. So my question that I pose to all of us here is, will the Arizona Coyotes maintain this new standings pace for the next 4 weeks? Can they earn 1 point per game the rest of the way out? And so to look at this, I just break it down real quick into two things for the Coyotes. I look at their luck metrics and I look at their puck possession. And from a luck perspective, the Coyotes are shooting at 12.2% success at even strength since February the 14th.
Too high.
Yeah, that's outrageously high. Teams almost never maintain a scoring efficiency of 10%. Over the course of a season, and the Coyotes right now are at 12.2. So that's going to drop almost definitely. The Coyotes goalies are actually doing very well too, at even strength. That is, they've stopped 92.2% of the shots they've faced, and that's good for 8th best in the NHL. And again, these numbers are just since February 14th. Now, if you combine those two numbers, you get a metric called what a lot of people call PDO. You might see it also labeled as SHSV, and this value for the Coyotes is 1044. Okay, 1,044. The league average is 1,000 exactly, and Arizona's average for the whole season has been 1,005. So to say that they're getting lucky over this, what is it, 8-week interval here or 6-week interval is an understatement. They are the luckiest team in the NHL. So let's switch gears, go from luck, and then let's look at how they actually play the game, the stuff they can control, and that's puck possession. And I'll just look at one number here. That's the USAT percentage, okay? This is the unblocked shot attempts made by the team. If you're over 50%, you're outshooting your opponents. If you're under 50%, you're consistently getting outshot. The Coyotes, during this stretch where they've been the luckiest team in the league, have a USAT percentage of 38.5%. Unbelievably low. Like it's the lowest number in the league. What this means is that if you combine these things together, you're looking at the team. This is the worst team in the league by far. They get outshot heavily every night. And they still have earned a 1 point per game in the standings over that stretch run. So what's going to happen here? The most likely scenario is the Coyotes will continue to suck. And then that luck is going to run out. And when it does, the Coyotes are really going to suck. They went into tonight in last place. And it would be difficult to see a team beating them for last place the rest of the way. So we may be looking at Jay Beagle on the stage on draft night, making that first overall pick.
Well, and that's not even to say anything, Mike, about the injuries they've just sustained, right? With Lawson Crouse and Clayton Keller. So,
oh yeah, that's a great point, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, not good. I should maybe take Karel Vejmelka off my waiver list here.
Oh, he's going to be on there later, huh?
He's on there based on some of the things you were talking about in terms of the strength of the goaltenders, right? Even strength. They've actually produced fairly well, and
yeah, they really.
I was just surprised to look at his numbers for March. So, okay,
and that's not a bad ad anyway, because when teams get heavily outshot, those goalies have a lot of shots against, and yep. Even a reasonable goalie is going to make a ton of saves under those circumstances. So.
There's some value there in terms of fantasy anyway, if it all goes well.
All right, so let's jump into our forward case. And for this little segment, I've chosen Anders Lee of the New York Islanders. So he's only owned in 54% of leagues right now. And I could see managers jumping on him based on the fact that he's scored 24 points in his last 25 games. So Anders Lee has been a point-per-game player since February 14th. If you look at his totals for the whole season, he only has 40 points in 61 games. So he's really come on strong lately. So if you do stuff like limiting players by looking at their last 14 days or last 30 days using the Yahoo cutoffs, he's going to look very appealing to you if you look at those numbers. But I'm going to throw a little bit of cold water on that real quick. Anders Lee is not shooting the puck a whole lot. He just takes about 2.1 shots per game. And since February 14th, Anders Lee's shooting percentage his ish, so to speak, is 26.5%, which is
Too high.
painfully high. Just for reference, on the season, he's at 19.4%, and for his career, he's a 14.3% guy. And then one more note about Anders Lee. The team's shooting percentage at even strength with Anders Lee on the ice is 10.4% for the season, which is high. But since February 14th, that number is 11.5%. So you're looking at a guy who takes 2 shots per game. And over the last month, he's been shooting at 26.5%. And so I would caution fantasy hockey managers going into the playoffs that he may look appealing to you if you look at the 30-day drop downs, but I think a cold spell's on the way.
I 100% agree, Mike. I actually just dropped Anders Lee recently.
Oh, nice.
I can't remember which player I picked up, whether that was Thomas in the one league, Bruce, or who it was. But the other thing I noticed is time on ice, too, is dipped below 15 minutes a couple times. So despite some production, I just don't like players who are playing 14 minutes a game, and then everything else you just said. I would totally caution fantasy managers on Anders Lee.
Yeah, and if you're into schedules at all, the Islanders don't have a very favorable fantasy hockey playoff schedule. So that just adds another little notch on the balance against picking up Anders Lee in the playoffs. And then finally, I'm going to do a defenseman here, and I'm looking at Sean Durzi from the LA Kings. He's hardly owned at all. He's only owned in 17% of leagues. And so far, he's got 24 points in 53 games. So he's half a point per game kind of guy. And the interesting thing about Durzi is that he's now on that top power play unit for the Kings. And that's because Drew Doughty's been out since March 10th, I think. So you can look at the breakdown of Durzi's stats when you look at the show notes for this. I'm not going to run through them here because we don't have any comparable career stats for him since it's his first year with the Kings. So what I do think is important to consider for this player is that since February 14th, he has taken 50 shots on goal. So he's shooting over 2 shots per game as a defenseman. He gets top power play time, and he's only scored on 2% of those shots. 2% for a defenseman is low. Somebody who's on the power play, especially the top power play unit, you're usually looking at something closer to like 5%. So I'm looking at Durzi as a possible playoff ad here, as somebody who can put in a few goals over the next couple of weeks. LA has a pretty decent fantasy schedule for the playoffs. The first couple weeks are what I would call neutral. If you look at our strength of schedule at Left Wing Lock, their numbers come in pretty low, between 0 and 10, I think, for the first couple weeks. But in that third week, if Doughty happens to still be out, the LA Kings will play Anaheim, Chicago, and then Anaheim again. And that could be a really nice setup for having, a fourth defenseman on your roster in the championship who plays 3 terrible teams.
Yep, for sure. We actually just talked with Durzi, was it last week or the week before, guys? So yeah, we endorsed that, Mike. I think he's been good, and I've actually had lots of questions on Durzi the past couple of weeks. So
yeah, probably the only downside here is that Drew Doughty is on the ice, and he just started taking shots, I think. So that's the great unknown, is when does Doughty come back, and how much will that impact Durzi's production?
I think as long as they keep winning, they're going to hold Doughty out, right?
I think so too. I think they'll give him as much rest as he needs.
They want him healthy for playoffs, and if they start slipping and they feel like they need a bit of a boost on the back end, then for sure they're going to bring him back in. But I'd say Durzi has a good opportunity here down the stretch in the regular season.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that does it for Fact or Fiction. Mike, thanks again for doing that.
Right on.
All All right, boys, let's get on to the next segment here. Ask the Hacks.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
And it's a bit of an abbreviated version of Ask the Hacks. We've just got 3 questions on the list this week. I might have missed 1 or 2, but it's just been a busy week for me. So I was going
to say everyone gave up on our advice.
No, I don't think it was anything like that. I do think I might have missed 1 or 2, but yeah, we're just a bit short on questions this week. Are you holding or dropping Aaron Ekblad at this point? And I don't see any scenario where you would hold him other than beyond your IR spot. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'd say the only way. Yeah, exactly. If you're going to hang on to him, you've got an open spot. You've got a spot to spare. But if you don't, I think I'd be dropping him.
And my mindset is it's the same thing with Ekblad that it is with Doughty. Even if he is healthy, they're just going to kind of hold him out as much as they can and make sure he's 100% for the playoffs.
Yeah, because I think when it comes to Florida, Ekblad is enormously important. Yeah. I think he's the reason they did not beat Tampa Bay last year, was because Ekblad was hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, so it could be a different story this time around. Hopefully. All right, I have Miro Heiskanen on IR. I picked up Shane Gostisbehere to replace him. With Heiskanen now healthy, do I drop Gostisbehere? Or should I keep Miro on IR to see how he performs post-injury? Based on your comments, Mike, about Arizona, I'm probably inclined to drop Gostisbehere. But looking at Ghost as an individual, he's actually produced quite well this season.
Yeah, he's had a really nice year in Arizona. I don't know that I would choose him over Heiskanen here.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with that. When I was talking to the listener, I said, well, maybe give it a game or 2 and just see. Like, you know, if they're going to ease Heiskanen back in, and Gostisbehere might put up some points, but Dallas is also pushing for a playoff spot. And I've always been a fan of trying to grab players on teams who are in a wild card spot or on the bubble, like, because they're always going to push a bit harder, right? And their potential to produce is always a little bit higher, but in my opinion. Okay, and then last question here, and it's not from Tyler or John.
What?
Hey guys, big fan of your podcast. Would you roll with 2 goalies and use the extra spot on your roster to stream players for the week, or roll with 3 goalies? It's a 14-team league, 22-man rosters. My goalies are Markstrom, Varlimov, and Stolarz, who he had streamed on Friday. I'm going to grab 2 goalies and stream a third spot, whether it's a forward or a goaltender as I need. But what do you guys think?
I do the same thing. I kind of, during this season kind of had the dilemma because I used to roll with 4 goaltenders, and now I've dropped them down to 2, and I will stream a third if the matchup is right, but otherwise I'm putting a forward in there.
Okay. Yeah, I like having the flexibility. John, what's your take on it?
You guys are bold. I like 3 goalies.
Even if the third goalie is Stolarz?
Well, if you could find a better goalie, I'd absolutely support that, but
Binnington.
Yeah, when I saw,
No.
I think it was
How about no?
I think it was Sasha who sent in this question. I think he later posted some of the available goalies, and the list was pretty bleak. It was like Nico Dawes, Jordan Binnington. Those are the only 2 I remember, and I think they were closer to the top of the list.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
There wasn't much on the wire.
Yeah.
Well, a 14-team league, and they're 22-man rosters, so yeah, it's going to be pretty bleak.
Wowzers.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might be better off streaming on that one then.
Alrighty. Well, that does it. Unless, Tyler, you've got any imparting wisdom? No? Okay. That does it for Ask the Hacks. Thanks again, guys, for submitting your questions and for listening. Be sure to send us your questions. Hashtag Ask the Hacks on social media, at FHHacks on Twitter and Fantasy Hockey Hacks on Instagram. Send us an email, fantasyhockeyhacks@gmail.com, or check out the website, fantasyhockeyhacks.com. When you submit a question, we're going to enter you into a contest that Mike's been generous enough to support and partner with us on. And so when you ask a question, you'll get entered into a draw for free 1-year subscription to the Left Wing Lock iPhone app. So thank you, Mike, for that. John's giving a thumbs down because he's a, I don't know what you are. You're an Android user or something of that nature.
Absolutely.
He has a BlackBerry.
Maybe, yeah, with the ball on it.
Right. I cry every time you guys talk about the Android or the iPhone app.
I honestly love the app. Like I'm not sure how I played fantasy hockey without it. So I feel for you, John. It's a tough situation. You too, Bruce.
I have the website bookmarked in my browser, so I'm not really too much of a concern.
And you miss out on interesting push notifications like about Artemi Panarin and his bowel movements.
Yikes.
I missed that one too somehow. I'm not sure, but
If that's not enough for you to trade in your Android, I don't know what will be.
Yeah, actually, that one went out in 2019, but it got revisited a couple days ago because of something Panarin said.
Nice. All right. That does it for that segment. Thanks again, guys. Now is probably a good time to tell listeners about DraftKings. As a member of the Hockey Podcast Network, the Fantasy Hockey Hacks podcast is a proud partner of DraftKings. The NHL season has been packed with dirty dangles, hat tricks, and big wins. As the action rolls on, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has your shot to win big too. New customers can bet just $1 on any team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's right, a bump in the win column for your team means free bets for you. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you still have a shot to light the lamp. Everyone can play huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy hockey contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet just $1 on any NHL team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. 21 years of age or older. Restrictions apply. See show notes for details. All of our helplines, text lines that Tyler uses on a frequent basis are available in the show notes, fantasyhockeyhacks.com. All the contest details and sign-up details you need are there as well. Mike, I got to ask, who is in that picture? I don't know what I was looking at there just now.
It's Colonel Sanders.
Was that Colonel Sanders for real?
Oh, no, it's, the guy's name is Lincoln Wolfenstein.
Lincoln Wolf, nice name. I like that.
Yeah. He's dead. I made a coaster out of him.
Nice. Wolfenstein.
He's
I love that.
semi-famous physicist that
Okay.
nobody will have heard of.
I was going to say he's definitely not a dentist.
Oh, boy.
Him and Jordan Eberle go to the same guy.
Yeah. Give me that gap.
You know what? Ebbs was actually offered by multiple dentists. He's on record saying this. Multiple dentists have offered to fix that gap in his teeth, and he's like, no, this is my trademark.
It's his signature look. Here you
Yeah.
go.
And he refuses to fix it.
Just
so.
park the bus in between.
All right. Well, thanks for trying to trip me up again, guys. I appreciate it. It's for our listeners. They have no idea what you guys are doing. But one time I'm pretty sure I saw Tyler's ass. I'm just like, I'm trying not to look at the screen. And there's some wild shit going on the side here. So
You're welcome.
They're gonna love this show when you guys switch to video.
yeah, we're working towards that. We're progressively going to get there.
We
So-
are going to be
Banned
kicked off
from YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube's going to be. We're going to be out real quick.
All right, let's move on to Edge Work, the segment where we do the work to give you the edge in your fantasy hockey leagues, starting with the NHL schedule for week 25. We're already an hour into this show, so I better move it through here pretty quick. But anyway, there's a total of 53 games on the schedule. It also happens to be the first week of fantasy hockey playoffs for many leagues. For others, it's going to be the final week of the fantasy hockey season and still plays a part in determining playoff positioning. So Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday are busy days, 10, 10, and 12 games respectively. Some notes here. Tampa Bay is the only team next week that plays 4 games on light days. That's 50% or fewer of NHL teams in action. So that should be a target for fantasy managers out there. They don't have a ton of fantasy-relevant guys to look at, but there are a few, so take a look at your waiver wire and see who's available. Boston, St. Louis, and Winnipeg play 3 games on light days, while Buffalo, Carolina, Calgary, Anaheim, Los Angeles, Minnesota, and Washington all play 2 games on light days. And Chicago and Vegas are the only teams that play 2 games on the schedule next week. Really quick recap here. So Monday, 4 games, Tuesday, 10, Wednesday, 5, Thursday, 10, Friday, 5, Saturday, 12, and Sunday, 7. And then I'll just rip this off real quick. Teams with 4 games: Boston, Buffalo, Carolina, Columbus, Calgary, Dallas, Nashville, Ottawa, St. Louis, Tampa Bay, and Toronto. I'll leave this in the show notes here, guys, so check it out. All the schedule notes are there in terms of who plays how many games. Some teams of interest here. The Carolina Hurricanes, according to the Left Wing Lock app, they have a -19 strength of schedule. The Hurricanes have a nice schedule for the upcoming week. They've got 2 matchups against Buffalo, 1 matchup with the Islanders, and 1 with Anaheim. 2 games during the week take place on light days. And since March 17th, I mean, we know Carolina's good, but just these are some interesting notes here. They are 3rd in unblocked shot attempts percentage, 57.1%. They're 7th in goals for per game at 3.43, and 9th in shots on goal per game or shots on goal at 34.2 shots on goal per game. So they've been great. And then for upcoming competition for this week, they're 3-0-0 so far this season. So they've played well against those guys. Some players to keep in mind there: Seth Jarvis, Martin Necas, Nino Niederreiter, Max Domi, Jacob Slavin, Brady Shea, Brett Pesce, and Antti Ranta. For 3 games, you've got the Edmonton Oilers. It's a +11 strength of schedule, which, Tyler, not great, right? It's kind of But during the second half of March, the Oilers were 1st in the NHL with a goals for per game of 4.78. I was a bit surprised to see that. 2nd on the power play at 37.5%, 7th in points percentage at .722, and they were 12th in shots on goal per game at 33.9. The downside, they have some tough competition this week. They face off against San Jose, Los Angeles, and Colorado. Edmonton's actually fared fairly well against those opponents, taking 8 of a possible 12 points so far this season. Their record against upcoming opponents so far is 4-2-0. Some players to consider: Jesse Puljujarvi, Kyler Yamamoto, Derek Brassard, Ryan McLeod, Evan Bouchard, Cody Ceci, and Mikko Koskinen and/or Mike Smith, depending on your risk aversion. And then, teams with 2 games. We got the Vegas Golden Knights are probably the team you want to take a look at. To -24 strength of schedule. They've been rolling lately. They're getting some bodies back. Like we mentioned earlier, Robin Leonard's back in the lineup, Alec Martinez. And their play has been good. They're 5-2-0 in their last 7 games. That actually didn't include tonight's game, which they won, right? They're 7th in points percentage since March 17th. I'm just going back a couple weeks here. 7th in shots on goal per game at 34.4, 9th in goals for per game at 3.43, 11th in USAT percentage, 51.8%. The power play is 16th at 25%. Favorable schedule this week with matchups against Vancouver and Arizona. Through 3 games against Vancouver and Arizona so far this season, they're averaging 5 goals per game. So they're kind of having whipped away with those guys. Yeah, and so 2-1-0 record against those guys. Players to consider: Evgeny Dadonov, Chandler Stevenson, Nicholas Roy, and Logan Thompson. However you say it, whether Nicholas Waugh or Roy, I don't know. But so there you have it. There's the schedule notes for this week, as efficiently as I could possibly get through them. So let's move on to NHL Week 25 waiver wire targets. Our waiver wire targets are generally focused on players with ownership of 50% or less. Sometimes we venture from that number, though, just if we feel that there's some players that are being ignored with higher percentages of ownership. And all of these strength of schedule numbers from Left Wing Lock are included in the show notes as well, so be sure to go check those out. You guys are going to love this one. I'm starting off the week with Brock Nelson. Tyler says I love the guy, but who doesn't love a guy who's on pace to score 45 goals this year?
I love this.
Tyler hates it, absolutely hates it. But 52% rostered, 3 games on the schedule for this week. I was looking at his numbers again last night. During the month of March, he posted 21 points and 13 goals in 17 games played. Kirill Kaprizov was the only guy last month to score more goals than Brock Nelson. Little FYI there for you, Tyler.
That is unexpected.
Wow.
Just knocked your socks off, I know, buddy. We got to talk about the ish because we always talk about the ish. 22.9%. During the month of March, it was actually 27.7%. So his ish is iffy, I'm telling you.
That's an iffy-ish.
Yeah. But the point production's there. So, I forgot to mention, 69-point pace over 82 games.
Nice.
So there you go. That's the breakdown on Brock Nelson. I would give him a look. For real. Next up here, Andrew Kopp. Mike, we actually also got Andrew Kopp and Frank Vetrano here on the list. We had talked about both of these guys, I think, in our trade deadline episode with you last week.
Yeah, that's right.
We weren't really, we were kind of lukewarm on both players, I think, right? We didn't really think it was going to have a huge impact for them fantasy-wise, but, I mean, Andrew Kopp in particular has been very good.
He has been good, and he got that nice prime spot on the top power play unit, right? I think with Ryan Strome out.
Yep. And that was probably the biggest surprise for most fantasy managers, I'd say.
He's got a good ish, too.
Got a good ish. Yeah, he's playing with Artemi Panarin, averaging 18 minutes of ice time. The ish looks good, 9%. It's below his 3-year average. And I believe his team's even strength shooting percent, his Tevish, as Bruce likes to call it, is at 7.1%, right? So there's some room for some positive regression or some puck luck there too. So that's always good to see. And he's shooting at a career best 2.7 shots on goal per game. The other thing too is if your league does count face-offs and not shifts, we're talking about face-offs here, guys.
That'd be nice.
54% on his draws this season.
It's good.
Yep.
It's good.
There you go.
And he's getting shifts too. So, I mean, it's all really good.
It's all really
love
good.
the shifts.
Frankie Vetrano too has been good. What's he got here? He's got 6 points, 1 goal in his first 9 games with the Rangers. Again, I'm surprised to see his deployment. He's played exclusively with Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider since joining the Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, those guys got acquired at like just the right time, and maybe these things go hand in hand. I guess Kako or whatever his name is, he's been hurt for a long time. So
yeah,
so there was
right.
There was an opening in the lineup, and then Lafreniere, John, that's your specialty.
Lafreniere.
He's been pretty bad leading into the trade deadline. And so it just kind of opened up 2 nice spots on the right-hand side there for Kopp and Vetrano.
Certainly did. They look pretty good. So at low percentage as well. Readily available. Next up here for forwards, you got Eric Holla. This is a guy that I typically haven't looked at, but he's got 10 points and 4 goals in his last 6 games played. And he's playing with Hall and Pasternak. They got 4 games on the schedule for next week, and he's even getting time on power play too. John, how can you not like that?
I have 0 complaints with that. The schedule's kind of wishy-washy there with Columbus and Detroit and
even Washington to some degree.
Yeah, but then you get Tampa in there. It's a little tougher, but no, he's been playing well and he's playing with the right guys. So no, I got 0 problems with that.
All right, cool. The next guy here is Dylan Strome. We talked about him once or twice here in the past few weeks, but I just thought it was worth mentioning again because he's still just 36% rostered.
Scored again today.
I think.
I got to double check that.
He did.
Okay.
He did.
Yeah. See him and Patty Kane. So.
Well, and this is interesting here too. So I looked at his numbers in terms of total points per 60 during the month of March. He was just outside the top 10 at a rate of 3.95 points per 60. 20 points, 10 goals in just 14 games played. So he had a good March, and it's continued here into early April. And to your point earlier, Tyler, it's garbage time. And he's an RFA this season too, is he not?
I believe so. Bruce?
I think so, yeah.
Bruce, contract guy. Are you awake over there? Right. Dylan Strome. Is he an RFA?
Dylan Strome, let's see here.
And
he is RFA.
RFA, there you go.
Arbitration eligible.
Okay. Center right wing eligible too. So I would. I guess the only issue with Dylan Strome for this week is that he's got 2 games on the schedule. Seth Jarvis, 8% rostered, 4 games on the schedule for next week. Like I'd mentioned earlier, Carolina has a nice schedule for the upcoming week, -20 according to Left Wing Lock. But he's been playing with Sebastian Aho and Teuvo Teravainen, and he's getting time on power play too. 8 points, 5 goals in his past 7 games. So some good production from him. I think he's been hitting a fair amount as well, and his shot production's been pretty good too in his past 10. So some good things there. He did play a season high 51.3% on the power play on Saturday night against the Wild. Not a bad pickup there. This one might be a stretch. Alexander Barabanov, 3% rostered. But he's playing with Hertl and Meyer in San Jose. He's got 10 points, 2 goals in his last 12 games. Like his line mates, he's got just under 2 minutes of power play time. So, I mean, some things to not like there either, but as a nice streaming option for the upcoming week, he could work. Mason Marchment, 24% roster. We've talked about him as well in this show before. He's actually playing on the third line now with Sam Bennett and Sam Reinhart. That's a pretty deadly third line. John, you'll be happy to know Marchment's 12.61 individual scoring chances for per 60 ranks 21st in the NHL during the month of March.
Wowzers.
The guy's creating a ton of scoring chances, so that's always good. That's what you look for in terms of fantasy production. 6 points, 2 goals in his last 8 games played. Like his line mates, like his team. So, and even the schedule isn't terrible for next week.
Yeah, Reinhardt slowed down a little bit, but he'll be bouncing
And
back.
Bennett too, for that matter. But
yeah, but no, there'll be good things to come.
All right, last forward here. I just sort of added him earlier. I didn't want to add him in too early because I didn't want one of you clowns to grab him before I did. But turned out Bruce beat me anyway. He was up at 12:30 last night picking him up. Robert Thomas, 32% rostered. 4 games on the schedule for next week, like we mentioned earlier. He's playing with Tarasenko and Buchnevich, and he's getting power play 2 time. 15 points, 7 goals, last 9 games played. So,
Yeah, the fact that the puck's actually going in the net now is just huge for him.
Yeah.
Like, he's taken 2 shots the last 2 games, and he scored on both of them, so.
We'll take it.
But that's a little concerning, but yeah, no. The fact that it's going in the net now is great.
Worth a gamble for a week anyway.
Oh, absolutely. The only reason I didn't have him anymore is because he wasn't scoring, and now that he is, it's a different story there.
For sure. We'll get into defensemen here. We got Josh Morrissey, who, Tyler, I know he disappoints you at times, but you know what? 7 points, 4 goals, 16 PIMs, 27 shots on goal, 3 power play points, 21 hits, and 16 blocks in his last 9 games. So he's been covering some categories and putting up some points.
He has actually been playing way better than Pionk. I have Pionk. So that's good. It's great.
He's not good.
No, it's bad. He's getting those shifts, though.
He's getting those shifts, man. He's almost 25 minutes a game.
Yep.
For Morrissey.
Yeah.
So some good things there. And like I mentioned earlier, I like players who are in teams fighting for a playoff spot. And Winnipeg, at the time of writing anyway, was 3 points back of a playoff spot. So there you have it. Next up here, Vladislav Gavrikov, who for sure has some value while Werenski's out of the lineup. And Bruce, I noticed you were drinking the Fantasy Hockey Hacks Kool-Aid and picking up Gavrikov.
Every time Werenski has gone down, I've picked him up, and it's just like things just keep on cruising.
He's been good. He's on pace for 37 points and 6 goals. With 108 hits and 115 blocks, he provides some nice coverage as well. So that's 1.64 hits per game and 1.74 blocks per game. So some good category coverage. And the shifts. Got to talk about the shifts, right? With Werenski out, he's averaged nearly 24 minutes of ice time. not bad production there from him.
Not bad at all.
Okay, we'll move into goaltenders here, starting with Mikko Koskinen, assuming he actually plays. It's funny because on the broadcast, I think it was Jack Michaels. I don't want to quote him or put words in his mouth, but I believe he said that Woodcroft appointed Koskinen as the team starter. And then we saw
Probably why he got sick.
well, but then we saw him go right back to Smith the next game, and then Koskinen got sick today. So he hasn't played much, but I mean, I'm more confident in Mikko's goaltending ability the remainder of the season than Smith's. But Tyler, what do you think?
I'm not.
Or just no, just no to both.
I'm scared of both of them, but if I had to pick, I'd pick Mikko.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's probably not going to be sick for too long here, and he's going to get a couple more starts. But I'd rather have anybody else other than Mike Smith, especially for fantasy playoffs.
Yep, fair point.
You guys remember was it the start of the season when you guys said you'd rather have Mike Smith than Koskinen?
But yeah,
No, I don't recall that.
What?
And it's definitely not on public record.
it was a different
What?
time. It was a different
Yeah.
time.
Things change, man. Things
Yeah.
change.
You guys are idiots.
Circumstances change. I remember Tyler saying something like, is there any way we can like delete episodes like a couple weeks after we post them?
I remember that too.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Hey, look, we're all going to have bad takes. I have them weekly, multiple times a week. So
So does John.
Whatever. What do you do? So does John. So does Bruce. So does
Tyler goes to say something about me, and I was just about to throw him under the bus too. So
Beat you to it.
Oh, God.
he did.
I look at it this way.
Kind of just want to.
The Oilers' goal.
Sorry, Bruce, go ahead.
I look at it this way. The Oilers' goaltending is like weather in Saskatchewan. Just wait 15 minutes and it'll change.
True story.
But it'll always suck.
It'll always suck.
Absolutely.
Just like the weather in Saskatchewan. Exactly.
I'd like to have a segment with just John and Tyler where they just talk shit about each other for 5 minutes.
Spin off.
Spin off. That sounds great.
Spin-off podcast.
We'll dig into that one. Next goalie here is Simeon Varlimov, 73% rostered, 3% or 3 games on the schedule for next week. I guess the issue here is that Ilya Sorokin is going to come back at some point. We don't know when. But Varlamov's been really good with him out of the lineup, posting a 3-0-0 record, 952 save percentage, 1.67 GAA. They're going to split time even when he does come back. So
I think
you're going to get some starts out of Varley.
I think Schneider played today, didn't he?
I believe he did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
He did. And he won too.
Yep. So there you go. That's one to look at. The other guy here, like I mentioned earlier, Karel Vejmelka. He finished the month of March with a 4-5-1 record, 3.00 GAA, and 921 save percentage. Some good numbers from him anyway, for an Arizona goaltender, Mike.
The shots are coming.
The shots are coming. Speaking of shots, I was looking at Jake Allen's numbers earlier today, and he's not in here as one of our picks, but he has faced 41 or more shots in his last 6 games.
But he's just getting peppered.
He's getting peppered, and
They've got a tough schedule this week, though.
yeah, this week they do, and I think next week he gets better, or like this upcoming week.
Yeah.
But he's actually held him in there, and I don't think his save percentage has been terrible. Like he's at around a 905 or 906 with some tough competition and facing a lot of shots. So if you're not afraid of ruining your peripherals, Jake Allen might be an option too. The last guy here is Logan Thompson. For as long as he gets starts, he's been good with Leonard out of the lineup. In 12 starts for Vegas, I guess he's at a 7-4-1 record, a 921 save percentage. 4 straight wins, a 929 save percentage or better in 3 or 4 of those starts. And like I said earlier, Vegas is rolling. So if Leonard doesn't start and Thompson gets the call, I think he's worth a spot start anyway. And John, you've got that Vegas Golden Knights jersey in the back. I mean, you gotta be happy to roll them out when you can.
I'd rather it said Fleury on it, but
Fair enough.
but yes, no, I'll agree to that.
All right. Well, that does it, guys. Unless anybody here is holding out. You got any other picks you want to recommend? Where's my cricket button?
I'm just going to say the name Voracek with no anything to back it up at all. Nothing. Just
Ooh, Voracek.
Voracek.
There you go. Voracek.
He's available.
All right, well, I guess that does it then, guys, for another episode of the Fantasy Hockey Hacks podcast. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Thanks to everyone that submitted questions this week. Mike, thank you for being here. We appreciate your time and your input as always.
Yeah, it was great to have me on again. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. We're looking forward. There's some really exciting stuff coming down the pipe here, and we'll have to talk a bit more about draft kits and stuff like that as we move into the off season and all that fun stuff. But with that, guys, it's been a fun episode. We'll talk to you next week. I guess, as always, check us out on social media at FHHacks on Twitter, at Fantasy Hockey Hacks on Instagram. We're on Reddit, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. Check us out everywhere. Send us your questions, fantasyhockeyhacks@gmail.com, and be sure to check out the website, fantasyhockeyhacks.com. I'm your host, Devin Davidson. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Good night.
Bye, Felicia.
Bye.
Take care.